Franklin Board of Education meeting. The meeting has been properly posted. And before we have a roll call, we'll do the ceremonial oaths of office. So, Linda, please. We'll do it over here.
Okay.
Oh yeah, I gotta get the picture.
Please raise your right hand. Do you, Linda Witkowski, having been appointed to the office of school board member, swear that you will support the Constitution of the United States and the Constitution of the State of Wisconsin, and faithfully and impartially discharge the duties of said office to the best of your ability, so help you God?
I do.
Thank you. Congratulations. Mary, please. Greg, if you want to take a picture, come on up.
Yeah,
Or Ava.
I was just gonna say, Ava.
Really?
Ava's
Who's in
in
charge
charge.
of the
Come on up.
AV? Yeah.
Ava, get video.
Just come stand next to the woman in the blue blazer and take a picture of your mom getting sworn in. There you go. That's okay. You're good. You're doing good. All right.
Do you, Mary Yank, having been appointed to the office of school board member, swear that you will support the Constitution of the United States and the Constitution of the State of Wisconsin, and faithfully and impartially discharge the duties of said office to the best of your ability, so help you God?
I do.
Congratulations.
Thank you.
Do you want a picture with
I
your
was gonna
family?
say, I think your family needs a
We
picture.
usually
Yeah,
offer the
please.
family picture.
Come on, guys. Your family's here.
Should we
You want me to
FaceTime
do?
Rainey and Irene?
Yep, you probably should do that.
Well, she'll send you a
Oh.
copy.
I can grab one for you.
Have them slide, yeah, slide down a little bit. There you go.
Now, so you're in the middle.
I'm gonna sneak in here and just grab one thing. And now look at me. So you have actual picture. Real fast.
Thanks.
All right, can we have a roll call, please?
Certainly. Mr. Sprague,
Here.
Mrs. Witkowski,
Here.
Mrs. Yank,
Here.
Mrs. Sapersky,
Here.
Dr. Khan,
Yep.
and I am here, and Mrs. Larson is excused.
Thank you. Can we all stand for the Pledge of Allegiance? I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. All right, I'm looking for a motion to approve the agenda.
So moved.
Second.
Motion's made by Mrs. Witkowski, seconded by Dr. Khan. All in favor? Aye. Opposed? Motion carries. The election of board officers. So we will go in this order: President, Vice President, Treasurer, and then Clerk. I will ask for nominations. You do not need to accept the nomination. You can decline it if you like. This is the only time that we can have secret ballots as board members. So in front of you, you have some ballots. If it's okay with the other board members, if there's only one nomination, we'll do a voice vote, but otherwise we'll do ballots. I will ask for nominations 3 times to make sure that everybody can be heard. And then we will proceed with the election. After the vote for president, whoever's president will preside. All right, so I'm looking for nominations for the office of president.
I nominate Michael Sprague for the office of president. Are you a Michael?
I am.
Okay. I just did that because I felt very formal.
Linda?
Yes. There's no seconds needed, correct?
No, there's no second needed.
I would like to nominate Debbie Larson for president,
Okay,
and the reason I would like to do that is for
thanks.
3
Any other
reasons.
nominations? All right, I'm looking for other nominations for the office of president. Are there any other nominations for the office of president? All right, so there's a president, and please
Can we make some statements?
It hasn't been done in the past, but is there a reason you'd like to make a statement?
Well, I just would like to explain, why I think she's qualified, because, if that's okay.
Sure, please.
Right.
Please.
I think Debbie would be a good choice at this time because she is our longest-serving board member. And I think, that experience and history is important, especially in this time of change. So for that reason. And then also, she has been president in the past. I don't know if you newer board members know that, but she has served as president in the past. So she has experience in that role. And then the last reason would be because she's a teacher. And I think we need maybe to elevate that voice this coming year, given where we're at. So that's why I think she would be an excellent board president, and I urge your support.
Thank you. All right, everybody, everybody please vote. Oh, shoot. I meant to have everybody vote with the blue pen.
Mine didn't.
No,
I think he wants it.
but it's supposed to be secret.
Oh, okay.
That's why we were all given the same.
That's why we're all given the same pen.
Got it.
I even asked Darlene to give everybody the same pen.
Wait.
It's
Yeah,
fine.
it's okay. There's mine right there.
One, Mike Sprague. One, Debbie Larson. Two, Mike Sprague. Three, Mike Sprague. Four, Mike Sprague. And five, Mike Sprague.
All right, thank you, everyone. And we'll now look for nominations for the office of Vice President.
I'd like to nominate Angela Weir for Vice President.
Thank you. Are there any other nominations for the office of Vice President? Linda?
I wanted to nominate Matsu, but I know he would decline. But the reason I wanted to do that was because I think as a board, maybe it's time to, he could represent a part of the community that maybe needs to be represented, and it's time for him to maybe move up in the leadership role. I think that would be a good thing for the board to show that to the community, that we are doing some, offering development of our board members. So also, I wanted to say, and I know he doesn't want to do that, but I wanted to say that, Angie, that's not because I don't appreciate what you've done as vice president, but I wanted to support you in the clerk role, and that. But again, my goal would have been to give our board leadership some more diversity and kind of share and develop us all together. But
Is that a nomination or
that is
not?
not a nomination because he would not accept.
Well, could ask him.
You could ask him.
No, not accept. No. Thank you so much for nominating, but I'm not accept. Thank you.
All right, is there any other nominations for the office of Vice President? Are there any other nominations for the office of Vice President? All right, seeing none, all in favor of Angie Beer for Vice President?
Aye.
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 Opposed? Angie, thank you. Everyone, thank you. All right, I'm looking for nominations for the office of Treasurer.
I would like to nominate Maksud Khan, and interestingly, for just about all the same reasons that Linda just nominated him for vice president.
Thank you. Any other nominations for the office of Treasurer?
Yes, I would like to nominate myself. I know it looks better if somebody else does, but I don't want to make it too complicated.
Thank you. Are there any other nominations for the office of Treasurer? Are there any other nominations for the office of Treasurer? All right, seeing
I
none,
would like to make a statement if I could.
please, Linda.
The reason I want to be treasurer is because, three simple reasons. I do have 40 years of experience in government finance. I'm not going to give you the whole spiel, but I had 40 years in the budget office and was a budget manager in Waukesha County. I know government finance. I know what good planning looks like. I know what government cooperation looks like. And I've been on the board 15 years. During that 15 years, there were 2 referendums successfully passed, and I think that that experience is important at this time, particularly, and that's why I ask for your support. Thank you.
Thank you. Maksud, did you care to say anything?
No.
All right, so we have a treasurer ballot in front of us. Please fill that out. Darlene, will you please?
Linda Witkowski, 1. Maksud Khan, 1. Maksud, 2. Maksud, 3. Maksud, 4. And Maksud, 5.
Thank you. Congratulations, Maksud. And, okay, I'm looking for, and we'll move the next meeting, by the way. I am looking for nominations for the office of clerk.
I'd like to nominate Linda to be clerk.
Thank you. I'd like to nominate Debbie Larson for clerk. Are there any other nominations for clerk?
I'm going to decline the position, I'm sorry.
Thank you. Are there any other nominations for the office of clerk? Are there any other nominations for the office of clerk? All right, we'll have a voice vote for clerk. All in favor of Debbie Larson for clerk? Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. I guess it's not a motion, but Debbie Larson will be clerk. Community comment, nobody has signed up for community comment, so we will not go through the community comment. Consent agenda, I'm looking for a motion to approve the consent agenda.
So moved.
Second.
Motion's made by Mrs. Sapersky, seconded by Mrs. Yank. All in favor? Aye. Opposed? Motion carries. There is school board calendar. There is a regular Board of Education meeting Wednesday, May 10th, 2023 at the ECC at 6, and a regular Board of Education meeting Wednesday, May 24th, 2023, also at 6. Gesundheit. Update from the district administrator, Mrs. Bennon, please.
All right, so welcome to Mary Yank, our newest board member. You already have a motion in there and you're in the minutes, so that's perfect. As I mentioned, like 2 weeks ago, we are in full concert season, so starting this week. So you'll notice Mr. Cromie is not with us tonight. He's been working in the Saber Center virtually all afternoon so that he had a front row seat to watch his kids perform for Southwood Glen. I actually just headed over there a little bit ago, but he is watching his kids tonight. And if you need your music fix, we have concerts for, I think, the next 4 weeks straight between our elementary schools and then rounding out with our middle and our high school. So very exciting. They're all at the Saber Center. We are working on our final details for summer learning program. All of our parents that signed up received an email later this afternoon in regards to a location shift. We are like more popular than ever, up 150 participants.
Wow.
So we are moving the program from where it was going to be at Pleasant View to Forest Park. We'll also be with our 6th to 8th grade students, but all of you have been in Forest Park. There are plenty of wings, so the kids will have kind of their own spaces, and the team has done a really nice job laying that out and making that adjustment just over the last week and a half as we realized we're large. And Pleasant View would be pretty full, plus there's some construction going on around that building, which wouldn't make pickup very optimal. So we're excited to get more information out to our families in the next week or so with their classes and confirming those signups. We have a couple positions we're still working to hire, so if you know anybody looking for a summer teaching role, we will gladly talk with them and find a space. So we are also working on planning our retirement dinner. All of you should have received the invite. You can let Darlene know if you're able to make it. It's May 11th, so we're excited for that. Different venue this year. Teacher and staff appreciation is coming up May 8th through 12th. So there's a lot going on in all of our schools. A lot of our PTOs and our administrative teams are really putting together some nice displays. A lot of times we celebrate with food, but there are other things going on too. So reach out to those teachers you have or the buildings you're liaisons for and working with that staff. But we have a lot of nice things planned. That's May 8th through 12th. We celebrated the Sabre Robotics team. I know we talked about them a few times, but they were at the World Championship. Did not make it all the way to the end. However, they made a really nice showing. We were excited that they had a safe trip to Texas and back, and it was nice to see a few pictures come in as they were there celebrating and working hard. A lot of you were at the Construction 2 ribbon cutting the other week with Tim O'Brien Homes and our construction class. It was a really great celebration. If you haven't driven by the house, it's beautiful. It is sold or in the process of being sold. They have a buyer. And 6 of those 12 students are already signed up for youth apprenticeships. So we're really excited about not just the opportunity they had in building the house and that experience all the way up to building the house, but also that they're extending and moving into that. There was students that many of you talked to that I spoke with that are going to be electricians, that are looking to be plumbers, that just had these great stories to share. And even more interesting, I think, is like the family's excitement, this pride. There were grandparents there. So it's really been a neat culmination, and thank you to Mr. Menti and Tim O'Brien Homes for that process. And last week, our 18 to 21-year-old transition services practiced mock interviews. Mr. Sprague was there as one of our people providing interviews, along with Vicki Cordani from our foundation. It was a really nice opportunity for students to get dressed up, kind of experience what that looks like, take away those nerves a little bit the first time, also get some feedback on how they were doing, eye contact, just how they talk through the interview process. So it was a really great experience for the students. And then just a reminder, we don't have school for students this Friday because we have school for our staff. We have our final professional development day of the school year. We have a lot of great gear up sessions going on, even sending some of our staff to the Conservancy to continue our partnership with them. And so it'll be a great day of learning. We're excited for our students to have the last 3-day weekend so that our staff can learn. So that's kind of the updates. Any questions, let me know.
All right, thank you very much. Reports, presentations, and other school board business. Proposed AP pre-calculus course 24-25. Mr. Blessington, please.
All right, good evening, everyone. Great to be back and have some updates regarding math programs, specifically 9th through 12th grade. Our time today is really an information item, so you're not voting on anything today, just for information and discussion, answer any questions. Before we get into the bulk of our time today, I just want to give a chance for our group to introduce themselves. So we'll just go across the table here.
Hi, I'm Jim Krolikowski, math teacher at the high school.
Anita Sundstrom, the curriculum coordinator.
And Joey Jonas, associate principal at the high school, and work with the math team at the high school.
All right.
Okay, so as you hear from us regularly, just to put this in context, I know we have come and spoken pretty much every year updating you around math a little bit. So with this, we thought we'd continue to ground in our continuous improvement for math. I would say that we're still in this stage 3 implementation phase. You've seen much of the work that we've been doing, and today we thought we might highlight some of what's happened over the last few years, celebrate some things happening in the math team, and continue to share with you some of our leveling up goals. So big picture, we'll get into some details. What have we come and spoken to you about recently? Recent progress. So this school year, Jim and a team at the high school have been involved in leveling up around pre-calculus, and the entire team has been really focused on how do you support all learners and their diverse needs in all the math classes. We have also, the year before, leveled up our IM3 course, and we spent quite a bit of time last year focused on like vertical progressions of learning, so how students transition from one course to the other. And I should say, when I say we highlighted this doesn't mean that we aren't also continuing that work in an ongoing way, both before and after that year. In 2020, we leveled up our IM2 class. This was also the same time that we kind of cleaned up the naming of our classes back. Before that, our classes were like named by a grade level, and obviously to clean up kind of connecting them more to the standards and the learning, we had cleaned up the names. And then we also had eliminated some remedial courses, and at that time we had kind of shared some of that rationale around how it wasn't supporting our student learning the way we wished for. And in 2019, we did quite a bit of deep dive into some new curricular resources that we had worked through that. So I'm trying to remember if that was the year you first started with us, but oh yeah, so that had a lot to do with our IM resources and some best practices. So yes, you've heard math updates every year, and we wanted to dig into some of the details. Oh yeah.
But I'll take it.
Yeah,
So
absolutely.
our high school math team's been doing a lot of work in regards to how they spend their PD days, how they use their PLC time, which is that weekly Thursday release time. And just to highlight a few of those pieces here, we've got a really big focus at the high school around meeting the needs of all learners, and we do that best when we collaborate with each other. So that's that first piece there. And collaborative teaming isn't just the IM1 teachers together, it's the IM1 teachers with their cross-cat co-teacher, it's with their leader, whether that's me or a different administrator, and at different moments there's, for example, our EL teacher, Barry Allen, jumping in to support that PLC or that work. So collaborative teaming to meet the needs of learners, learners that are excelling, and learners that are anywhere on the spectrum of in needs of support. Vertical teaming has been a part of their professional development, so we've had some facilitated time to have our 9th grade team meet with the 8th grade team to talk about what that transition looks like from 8th grade to 9th grade. And then they're also teaching some of the same coursework. So how does IM1 look at the middle school? How does it look at the high school? And then additionally, what are we seeing at the high school in terms of gaps, and how can we combat that as early as possible? You know, we see that in IM3, and then IM1 and 2 can just talk in PLC, but we don't always have that opportunity to talk with, you know, what is the middle school doing? How are they teaching this? So that was really valuable, and in a facilitated way to also share strategies to help, again, make everybody better to meet the needs of learners. Additionally, when we have curriculum that is stable, which has been the case for IM1, 2, and 3 for the most part, they are able to then focus on the how they're going to teach the standards through the curriculum. And the standards are the curriculum. We use the Carnegie curriculum in order to access and teach the standards, but we always can get better at how we're doing that. So things like, how do we create welcoming classrooms? How do we close lessons with purpose? How do we synthesize learning? How do we activate background knowledge are examples of that. And then additionally, continuing to support students that are struggling to learn. There are students that fail math classes, and our team has really rallied around that from first semester by looking at who's failing our required math courses and creating alternative plans for them to be successful. We've done that with a targeted group of students and have helped students recover IM1, 2, or 3 credit as they're still in the second semester of IM1, 2, or 3. Which is really important when we think about keeping them within the general ed curriculum and not exposing them to an alternative curriculum for them to be able to do that. And what I mean by that is an alternative placement. So some continued work to do there as well. Further celebrations, and part of our excitement is to continue this, but over the last 3 years, we've seen continued excitement in our AP offerings. At the high school, those 3 AP offerings are AP Calculus AB, AP Calculus BC, which both can be taken after pre-calc, and then AP Statistics, which can be taken after pre-calc or after either of those calc courses. So in that way, we have 3 different courses that are now servicing 162 enrollments, maybe not 162 unique students, because students do double up from time to time between the calc and the stats. And this has been a really big celebration for our team, because when you think of that ability to earn college credit in an area of math, that really is an awesome opportunity for our students, whether it's in math or any other area. So it's exciting to see growth there. And then the next couple of slides, just wanted to highlight some data. So this is data we shared with our math team and also wanted to highlight with you today. We were strategic in picking the 2 years we picked. If you remember from Anita's slide a couple of slides ago, 2019 was prior to the leveling up work. So now we've had a few years of the leveling up work, and we can see growth in the ACT score. It does fluctuate between those years, if we're being honest. We're not trying to hide data, but we have seen that growth over the last 3 years as well. And then you can see here in the data, this would be for the 9th through 11th grade, which would be Aspire, pre-ACT, or the actual ACT data. you can see the different subgroups. And really, I would have you focus on that blue group on the bottom, which is our advanced group, growing to a level we haven't seen over the past 3 years. So when you think of, are we meeting the needs of our learners at the highest levels through this leveling up curriculum, I think there's always concerns around when you remove an honors course, how are we still meeting the needs of our strongest learners? There'd be evidence to show that our advanced group is growing. And then additionally, the continued work is to have our below basic group continue to shrink. And there's been some stabilizing of that, but yet still, we're still doing some work there to continue to help that group grow, but we can see it has declined slightly over these 3 years. And then the last slide for me around some of the data. So this is confusing and it's a little hard to explain. It's not a normal way to show this, but on the state report card every year, we're given some data around growth. So just stop me if it doesn't make any sense. But essentially, they make growth, the average is a 3. So our average, like the state average for growth or school average for growth is, state average for growth is around a 3. So anytime that we're above a 3, that means we're growing faster than our state counterparts. So all of our students grew at a rate of 3.5, which is already something to celebrate because on that indicator, it's showing that we're growing faster than other students. And it's also really exciting considering we often achieve higher than most other districts. So when growth is also at a high level, that's something we're automatically going to get excited about. But additionally, when we got this data to start this year, we looked at what groups are growing further than our average. So when you look at students who are Asian, English learners, or weren't proficient in prior years, those students grew at 3.7 or 3.6, which means they're growing faster than the average. So that's exciting. Even when you think of a student who's an English learner and what that looks like in a math classroom, like that's something to get really excited about. And then it also created purpose for our work because you'll see that the group of students with disabilities was below that average. So that's created a lot of the work for our math team this year. So they have seen this data since the fall, and we've created school goals around how to service learners that have disabilities. And that's what a lot of our co-planning, a lot of our meeting the needs of all learners work came out of is data like this. So we're hoping to see that goal, that growth in this group grow even beyond the average so that we can close gaps, not grow gaps. So again, this is data that we started the year with, and now that's created purpose for our work this year.
So we are coming to you to provide this information. We would like to continue the leveling up work that we have been doing the last 3 or 4 years. The 2 big items that we wanted to talk to you about were removing the calculus class. Our rationale around that is we have seen a really big reduced interest in students for this course. So for example, the enrollment requests for this coming school year were 29 students. So this used to be something that we would see maybe 2 or more sections of students, but now that interest is much lower, which I think is combined a little bit with what Joey was saying earlier about how we're seeing an increased interest in some of our advanced classes or our AP classes. There's also, as we've mentioned every time we come to you with leveling up, unnecessary redundancy with calculus. We do offer both AP Calculus AB and AP Calculus BC. So, you know, our desire would not to have all this overlapping standards, and this would be just the same standards. And students, of course, would continue to have these 2 options for AP Calculus. So that's half of our leveling up that we wanted to bring you. The other is to revise our pre-calculus course with 2 AP pre-calculus. So what's really interesting with this is essentially this is us hoping to kind of revise a leveling up that we did a couple of years ago when we brought the pre-calculus to you. So we didn't know at the time that we came to you, would have been like 2 years ago, about leveling up pre-calculus, that the College Board was considering an AP pre-calculus. Once we got the pre-calculus approved last summer, we had heard that the College Board was working on this AP pre-calculus. Jim and the team and Joey and I had talked at the time last summer, like this opportunity's out there. Do we want to kind of see what information they have? Our current pre-calculus course, now that we can see the framework for AP pre-calculus, we can really see that we currently have a pretty strong alignment between the leveled up course that we're working on right now and the AP pre-calculus. So knowing that we're already pretty aligned, we think it would be awesome to offer an AP pre-calculus and have this be something where the work and the efforts and everything that the students are doing is reflected on their transcript. So we've designed a course that is rigorous, that is pretty aligned to the framework. Our students could see that AP pre-calculus on the transcript. It's known entity, colleges and post-secondary would know. It's also a super opportunity for our students to access a college credit as a high school student. It's kind of a benefit at all interests and levels for math, because it is a chance for every single one of our students to access college math in high school, regardless of whether or not they had been accelerated back in middle school. By adding the AP pre-calculus, a student who had not been accelerated at any point could still access this while they're in high school. And with College Board adding this and knowing that in college, kind of regardless of what the degree is, students need some math, but if our students could meet their math credit in high school, even if they're entering a career field that maybe isn't math heavy, or like some of our students who don't have maybe a passion around that, if they could earn their credit with us, that would set them up to be even more successful in college. So these were some of our, just seeing if there's anything else I missed there. Oh, yeah, I think our teaching team being able to connect to sort of the College Board's national community around teaching. There's AP pre-calculus community, there's training, there's some resources, there's the AP classroom that all of our high school students are getting very comfortable with, would be really beneficial. So this was our thinking around why we're coming to you with these pieces. And if we want to look at what does this look like for our programming,
Yep.
this is our current, oh yeah, that's you.
Yeah, it's okay. So yeah, just, and I know this is in the, I don't know if this was in your board packet, this is our current programming right now. So just going to transition to like what the changes would be. I really look at some of these changes as really, in some ways, doing some housekeeping and some cleanup with that AP pre-calculus class. I already have a really tight alignment that just provides a little bit of rigor, and I think, looking at that calc class and knowing what the enrollment is. But this proposed change, the idea would be to come back in 2 weeks for approval on this. That would take place, would start in the 24-25 year. The hopes of, again, jumping on this, if you remember, a lot of these course approvals came in November, and we had to get started on right away. As soon as this would be approved, we would start the process of getting ready for this. So, I just want to leave with some thoughts in terms of like coming into my role, looking at math. One of the things specifically around math with next steps, really looking at continued professional learning around like really what is best practice or evidence-based practices in math instruction. So that's something we want to continue to dig into, and really looking into as it relates to Franklin is like, what are our course offerings, especially in 6th to 8th grade, as it relates to like acceleration, and what's that impact of acceleration on student learning? Okay, so and what is the current research saying on that? And students right now, they reach a point in their decision-making process early on, and that's a piece that I want to learn more about and look closer at data as I want to engage our teaching and learning team on that as well. So those are just kind of a bridge to where we're going with math overall. So on that note, I wanted to open it up with any questions that anyone had.
And Jim does teach a class, so if he runs out, he appreciates you.
Maksud, please.
Yeah. So right now the IM1 can you take as a 7th, 8th grader? You have to be a freshman to take the IM1.
We have some middle school students taking IM1, yes.
So you can take as early as 7th, 8th grade.
Mhm.
And then my next question is that the vertical teaming which is happening between 8th to 12th grade, do you see more of a bang for the buck if we do a vertical team maybe from 7th to 12th grade, because even 7th to 11th grade, because if 8th grade, if you're teaming with the 8th grade teacher, by the time the students are there in the 8th grade, is it too late to catch up to be them able to, because if they're just taking IM1, IM2, IM3 and they are burning out, by junior year, then will they have time to, in senior year, will they be able to kind of,
We were heavily highlighting some of the work this year with the high school team. We do have coaches and the middle school team. Thanks, Jim. He is teaching. He's hardworking. And so our team from 6th through 8th grade math teachers does regularly meet, and Joey and I meet regularly with one of the coaches that works with them. So I would say we still maintain a pretty good communication 6-12. This school year, we just haven't had the teachers necessarily lead a facilitated discussion, but the coach at the middle school has led facilitated discussions with the 6th through 8th grade, which would have been all the way from 6th grade math through the IM1, kind of looking at that flow. And going forward as we can fit it. Some of that has been balancing just the practicalities of the middle school teachers, also implementing new science. So we have prioritized some of their focus there just with the new curriculum in science, but they have had internally that flow. And we've been able to get the 8th grade math teachers with the high school ones this year. But that is ongoing efforts to make sure there's good communication across.
Ann, go ahead.
So I hear what you're saying in offering high school students the chance to earn that college credit. What would you say to a kid who is not planning to attend college and is maybe, taking a different path for whom that might not be the priority? Is there an advantage to that person for, taking the AP Pre-Calc, or is there some maybe need to keep a level of math there that isn't AP Pre-Calc?
So as a former math teacher, you're always gonna push students to take 4 years of math. Like, that's always the goal. But there is this kind of a break apart at IM2 where we still have the ability for students to take a full year of IM3A and a full year of IM3B. And that group of learners has been pretty consistently at about 50 students. So about 50 in IM3A, and then it drops down to about 25, so about one section in 3B. And we feel that those 3 sections do meet the needs of some of those learners who may be going to the trades or know they're not college bound even as sophomores. But at the same time, it's a tough conversation to have with a 16-year-old, like, are you going to college or not? So we're trying to push that rigor and having them access to that highest level of rigor for as long as possible. But at that IM2 level after sophomore year, if they've gone through 2 years of struggle with math, or they need to get some remediation to fill in gaps that still exist, that 3A and 3B course has been successful in that. And it's a co-taught class, and we've had 2 really good adults in 3A this year redesigning and rethinking what that time needs to be, so it is more personalized for what students need based on what they need to both fill in gaps and then apply in the future. And Jim teaches 3B currently, and in the second semester, it really is like, what do you need math for in your future? And that's what he's going to tailor the instruction for. So some of the students in that class are going to college, so it's the placement exam, it's their next class in math. Others, it's more of, you're going to take the test for the trades, or maybe you don't need it, so it's more applicable to a job, or don't need as heavily.
And even with the AP Pre-Calculus, we're highlighting that, yes, you can get college credit with it, but to be fair, a student can take that class and they don't have to take the AP test at the end, so it could be an opportunity, just like now with their Pre-Calculus, to learn, continue to grow, but that wouldn't have to result in the test at the
Andrew,
end.
please. Oh,
Oh,
sorry.
can I
Go ahead.
ask a follow-up? Sorry, clarifying question. So we have IM1, IM2, and IM3. 3A and 3B, is that not splitting IM3 into 2 semesters? You just talked about like the second
vast
semester
majority of
of
the
it.
curriculum is the IM3 curriculum. It's
Okay.
2 years, so it's 2 years to do 1 year, so it's double the time. So in theory, the first half of IM3 is 3A, the second half is 3B. But to supplement that, to meet the individual need, those are some of the things our teachers are doing, given that they have twice as much time.
So a student would still be able to have the 4 years of math. It would just be IM1, IM2, and then IM3A and 3B
Yep.
versus IM1, 2, 3, and then picking one of the AP tracks for their
Correct.
senior year.
Can I ask them, how does the 2-3 relate to the other 3s?
So the 2-3 allows students to accelerate that weren't accelerated in middle school. So
Essentially, that one is twice as much math. So if a student took that, they would have,
math every day.
yeah, they have IM2 essentially first semester and IM3 second semester.
My daughter took
Combining the 2 courses.
Took IM2-3, so math is like all the courses is every other day. She had math every day last year as a sophomore. So she took it in 1 year rather than.
Yeah, so it's just another opportunity for
Yeah.
kids.
Bob sees this question coming because I asked it of him when we were meeting in our liaison meeting.
It's written on his hand.
It's written on his hand, he's ready. I just get concerned about kids who do want to continue accessing high-level content and want to continue to push themselves, but don't want to do it in an AP setting. So you mentioned that next year, 29 kids asked to enroll in regular calculus, which is not an insignificant number. So I just wonder what your thoughts are. I understand that they don't have to take the AP exam, but those AP classes have a cadence. And that cadence is hitting a breaking point at my house right now because all the AP exams are next week. And so it's perhaps a reason that a student might want to not have all of their classes be AP. Talk to me about why you think that my concern is not valid.
It's valid. I mean, our team had some concerns about that too, even when we went to pre-calc versus honors and regular pre-calc, because the pre-calc pace they felt like wouldn't be able to maintain what the honors pace was for all learners. But we really reflected on, we control what a student learns in those first 3 years. Like, we are their math teachers. It's not like we're looking at outside people and then we get them in for pre-calc. So some of the curriculum work they did is they emphasized, for example, trig functions, because that was a bigger part of pre-calc than they had anticipated it being, and the IM curriculum doesn't emphasize it as much. So they're supplementing IM3 with something really specific to prepare learners for pre-calc. And I know that's a math example, but regardless, our team is thinking strategically about how we get those learners ready. And then additionally, they've already had some of that conversation around what does the pacing look like for all students, knowing there's still going to be variability in who's in this class. Like, there's a good chance, if this is approved, it'll be the most participated AP class at the high school. Like, if the same enrollment consistently happens for next year, there'll be 250 kids in this class. So it's a big undertaking to think through, how do we get every learner ready for this class? And our team's been doing a little bit of the same work, because the pre-calc class we have right now essentially is this AP pre-calc class.
I'm actually less worried about the AP pre-calc class, because that might be similar to the pre-AP bio, right? Capturing learners who may not have had, although they will have had some pre-AP experience. It's honestly just the learners who are like, my whole life can't be AP.
So if you want your 4 years of math and your senior year choice is an AP math class, are there
nothing.
other AP classes that you're gonna have to give up? Because you're also in an AP science, you're in your AP capstone, you're in, what you've got, you could potentially have all of your classes
Yeah,
senior year
and I
be
don't think that
AP.
that's healthy.
And so if you are somebody who, sorry to jump in on you, Angie.
No, you're right, I agree with what you're saying.
If you are somebody who, you're on that track to have multiple AP science classes or English or, whatever it is, and math isn't your strongest, but you still want a 4th year of math, do you go back after AP pre-calc and take IM3B? No, that doesn't make sense. So how do you balance that rigor? Because even if you're not going to take the test, you're still in a class for 9 months.
It's a college prep class,
Yeah.
or a college class, yeah.
The calculus class is as well. It's just not a class that.
That's why I wish you wouldn't have left. I would have asked, there must be a difference, like, because how many kids chose to take regular calculus this year? You mentioned there were 162 in the advanced, in the AP.
It's still only one section. I can look up.
No, but there's, there's that section. So why did they choose it? And were they just making a silly mistake? Or was there a reason that their guidance counselors guided them to do that instead?
Were they balancing other,
Yeah.
they're putting all their, their challenging classes in maybe science and not math?
Yeah.
I mean, you could, yeah, I mean, those are all possible. It could also be because it was a choice to pick, and like, I'm not necessarily saying that that's the
I
worst
don't
thing in
think
the
that's a
world.
bad reason. My other concern is just and this was my other challenge, was there must be some disadvantages to being so AP heavy. And so I tried to do my own little Google search, and it's all from student perspective about what the disadvantages of AP. But we're becoming very uniformly AP, and it just makes me nervous, like a monoculture, like a field of alfalfa just waiting to be hit by a fungus.
I appreciate that comes from the College Board. I do think, though, that the way College Board works with, like, here's the framework and how do you reach this, it is a national community of teachers who teach these classes, and it really is like, here's your community. There's like a platform that teachers of a subject can confer with each other, provide lesson ideas. So on one hand, it can kind of look like, oh my gosh, we have a lot of College Board, but I would say they're not curriculums. They're like, here are the goals and here's the learning. Teachers still have a lot of say in like the how they're teaching it and responding to their specific students. And it really is grounded in like the expertise of every teacher. So like within our building and across the nation. So like that learning community is just really large, I think, for teachers. So I think it's like, I appreciate what you're saying, because
I
know once
appreciate what you're saying.
committed
It
to
makes
that,
sense.
But I think like it is almost, it's a cool way for teachers to really kind of have the art and science of teaching and be grounded in like specific goals that keep them kind of focused on these standards and keep the rigor and sort of the expectation. And there's a lot to be said when teachers and students know that they can do this and they build that confidence. You know, I was thinking we're seeing increasing confidence. I would argue we're seeing increasing confidence in math by our students because they're selecting advanced math. And we saw a few months ago when we looked at like more kids taking advanced science, and I think about some of the leveling up we've done with science where they're feeling maybe more like I am this kind of person. And I think it is kind of interesting. Yes, it's College Board, AP Bio or AP Calc or whatever the AP is, and we have a lot of AP classes, but I do think there's still quite a bit of how do we teach it, and that uniqueness still shines through, and it's constantly improving through that community. And I don't know for math specifically with your even greater expertise than me, if there's other things you'd want to share.
Well, I just
with
wanted to
that.
give the numbers because you had asked. It was 54 2 years ago. This year it was 44, and next year it's 29. So I misspoke. It was 2 sections this year. But
I have a question. So
Please, Linda.
I hear you talking about how it really, there's an advantage for teachers because they're part of this community.
Which benefits students because they're more likely to be using strategies and supporting student learning to reach
Right,
those
but
standards.
My question, when I saw the graph, so I did see, you know, how it impacted those high-end learners, but what are we doing for the other end?
Yeah, they didn't look as good.
And
That
our answer
continues
is
to
more
be-
AP, or what, how do we address that other end?
This is the ongoing work that we are doing with all of our teachers and frankly, in all of our subjects to continue to build off of like, how do we support every single learner and meet them where they are?
But is every teacher exposed to AP, that whole community? Every math teacher is teaching one AP class, so they are part of that community you're talking about, or?
Not necessarily. For math, we probably would at this, you know, if we move forward with something like this, probably half the team would be involved in a community like that. I will say this is a team though that does gather together and really think about that vertical flow. So like what Joey was saying, when a year and a half ago when we got approved for the pre-calculus leveling up, that entire team repeatedly sat down with us and truly embraced, if we're gonna help every student learn this, what are the things we need to change in IM 1, 2, and 3 to like further push readiness? And I know we're early in the work and we are dedicated to continuing to try to work to explore to reach all learners with those pieces. And I know we've seen a little bit, you know, we've seen some of the growth in some of the other subject areas around all learners. And I would say like, we're still hoping that as we go, continue pushing forward in the next few years, we can see that in math as well.
Can I ask?
Please, Ann.
Kind of adding on to that, when you talk about how many students, you know, your AP Pre-Calc would be your largest section of math classes. You'd have multiple sections. What,
largest AP class. in
largest
high
AP,
school.
right.
Wouldn't be the largest math class.
What do we have staffing-wise to support that? And what additional training would be required for that? And like, how do we know that our staff, I don't doubt our staff is far more qualified to teach math than I am, for sure. But, I mean, if we're offering now a new class, like what support would be involved in getting them ready so they have the confidence to teach the students?
Yeah.
Aside from just
Yeah.
online,
No,
oh my gosh,
awesome
my
question.
kids, you know,
Two
like.
pretty basic thoughts. So one is the AP training. So we'd support sending our teachers to the AP training, which we do when we bring in a new staff member who's going to teach an AP course and they haven't in the past. So we hired.
Just tell, what is AP?
So it's 4 or 5 day
Yeah.
intensive training around not only the curricular resources, but strategy to teach the
Mm-hmm.
course, and then kind of outlining how do you use AP Classroom effectively. It produces daily videos typically that students and staff have access to help them review for the test. Where can you find examples of test questions and things like that? They're kind of their kickoff to what all the resources are that they offer through College Board. And then the other thought that I had, I just lost as I was talking, so Anita kicking in and find it
Yes,
back.
and we were, like, our current pre-calc team is we have 4 people doing heavy load, but maybe 3 teaching it. Yeah, so like, we're looking at right now, I know we're meeting with 4 people, and Joey and I connect with them. So it is already it's a nice core team that has focused their attention, and we're planning to have, the training would be them and Joey, so that we have on-site admin who's gone through the training as well, which has been really a
Remember
lot of
my
support.
additional thought. Like the other piece is if you pull up the AP pre-calc curriculum right now, it has lesson plans outlined to the point of like almost day to day what you would teach. And when we did the switch from honors pre-calc to honors pre-calc and pre-calc to just pre-calc, that was us. Like that was our internal, like, what have we been doing? What do we want to do starting from not scratch, but kind of deciding as an FHS team, what are we going to do day to day? And then being like, oh, that took 2 days. That took 1 day. AP lays that out in a really systematic way to prepare students for the test because they want students to pass. They want students to earn the credit. So that's just a really specific example to where our staff already would be starting with that from day one versus thinking through that as they're going. And we can provide all the curriculum time in the world, but still some of that's going to be while we're doing the work.
Yeah, what's exciting for me, I would just add on that in terms of the AP pre-calculus, this is something that was really driven by our math teachers. Like, hey, look, we have a pretty tight alignment here. So that is always like, really positive when we hear like our teachers are like seeing the connections and like, now that there's an opportunity to have AP pre-calc, like what do we need to make this happen? So,
Just anecdotal, I have a student at home who thinks that might as well be an AP class at this point because she
I'm
hears
so
it's
alive.
just like that.
That's the one
I
thing.
have
She
one of
hears it's
those
just
too.
like that.
That's what we keep talking about.
She knows
too.
everything already
Oh, of
anyway,
course.
just so you know.
Perfect.
But like we talk
We're
about how
relieved.
next year there will be an AP pre-calc test and our students will sign up for it because they know our course is aligned because our staff will tell them that and we'll supplement as best we can, but it won't be fully aligned. So knowing that our students pursue those opportunities, I would say that it's best for those students to have that opportunity from day one.
Can I ask one more
Please.
thing, just follow up? Bob, your final slide talked about looking at the research for accelerating students.
Yep.
6 to 8. Can you give me even 2 more sentences about that? Like, is that like the negative, positive, and how would we be accelerating more kids 6 to 8, and would that impact our high school offerings, or
Yeah, I mean,
accelerating fewer kids? What's the
I mean,
trend?
I think it definitely, it could impact our whole sequence. I just, personally, I want to take a closer look at that in terms of our acceleration rate, looking at all the pieces from like 4K up to 12th grade. Like, what does it all mean? And is there unintended consequences, for example, if we start to like have kids reach a decision point when they reach 6th grade or 7th grade? What is the data telling us about that, and what is the prospects for like future for that student? If that's stuff I want to dig in more and learn more about and talk to people locally here about how that's gone.
I just
Yeah.
wondering, because
Yeah.
certainly if we're going to make changes 6 to 8, that's going to trickle up. Can you trickle up? That's good.
Yeah. I think from my perspective, some of the things that we're seeing here set us up. The high school has done a really, and thanks to Joey's leadership and others, have done just a fabulous job of like getting things situated really nicely. I mean, it's the right work, and I certainly take to heart what you're saying about calculus. I think it gives us some things to think about, but overall, like, I think we're in good shape here. Well, could that impact if there's potential change at the absolutely. I don't want to say that it couldn't, but also like we're looking at everything, right? So middle would be like a natural spot to look at in terms of continuous improvement.
Well, thank you.
I will
Linda,
say,
please.
I kind of lose track of what's going on in math when it's all integrated math. I mean, I'm used to,
Yeah,
where's the
it-
algebra, where's the geometry?
It's integrated.
What does this all even mean?
Sneakily in there.
It's all together.
It's all together.
I appreciate the leveling up that's been done, and I wonder if, so we've gone from science to pre-AP in sophomore and freshman and sophomore year, and we're moving toward that in English, and I'm guessing there isn't a pre-AP integrated math, or what would be called integrated math, or, I mean, we're leveling up, so I guess that's the same
Yeah.
thing, there's just no alignment with AP, is that
No,
Is that a
there
good
is
assumption?
There is a pre-AP math. It may be algebra and geometry. I don't remember off the top of my
Thought it was
head.
2 years, yeah, I don't remember.
So they do have some pre-AP math. We had not explored that originally with our leveling up because we had a different resource, the Carnegie resource
Sure.
that we've been using, so.
And the research continues to show that integrated math it works. It's the way to go. And so our resource, we feel really strong in with Carnegie, so.
Yeah.
great?
So are we
The
using,
results prove it, or show it at least.
are we using Carnegie all through?
1 through 3.
I am.
We use Carnegie resources to support the learning in 6th through 12th grade, or 6th through 11th. The 3 classes at the middle school through IM3.
Anybody else have further questions? All right, thank you very much.
Thanks. My clicker is-
Mr. Jonas, you might as well stay there.
Yeah, I just get to hang out right here.
World language travel requests, Miss Patricia Carson and Mr. Jonas, please.
Yeah, we're a smaller team. All right, guys. So Trisha and I are here to talk through an opportunity we'd like to offer our students, specifically our students in our German program. So I'll let Trisha introduce herself to all of you.
Hi, I'm Trisha Carson. I'm the full-time German teacher at the high school. It's my first year at Franklin, but I have 20-plus years experience. And I have organized and led 8 trips to Europe with high school students using EF, which is the company that I've proposed here, and have had great success and can see how those trips affect students in their future endeavors. So studying abroad, traveling abroad, focusing in on foreign language, even if it wouldn't be Spanish or German, they oftentimes will go to college and pick up Icelandic or Norwegian. So I'd like to offer it to the Franklin students as well.
So just reminding all of you that you've received our proposal and the executive summary, and it outlines some of the details in really specific pieces. Trisha did a really nice job of outlining what it would look like for students and what those details would entail, why the cost is what it is. So we just want to highlight some of that and then take any questions, and we're looking for your approval tonight in regards to this. So some of the benefits of travel are obvious: to expose yourself to different cultures and different opportunities. And we've been a district that over the years has been able to support that. Obviously, with the barrier of COVID and travel since then, we haven't. But now we feel like we're ripe for that next step. And to have a passionate staff member who has the experience doing it, we're very fortunate to have that. And of course, when you start to talk about this with students, they get pretty excited. So it's been nice to be able to get some of that initial discussion and thoughts around what would be important to them. And then Trisha's planned this through a corporation or company that she's used in the past. So I'll let her highlight some of the benefits she's seen and she believes will impact our Franklin students if we're able to do this.
And Franklin students have also traveled with the company EF before, and some of you may know that. So I just put together a quick list of the benefits, some benefits for students. I think what is really important is, in my situation, they'll be immersed in the German language. And for the 10-day trip, they're going to be learning all 10 days, all day. And even if it isn't necessarily focused on language at any particular moment, the kids are gaining perspectives from other cultures, and it could be food or, you know, something like that. And then also I believe that the trips, and it doesn't just have to be the trip I'm planning, but I think that travel abroad always connects with the standards of culture, comparison, communication, connections, and communities. So.
Yeah, not only are they learning, they're learning mostly over their spring break. So it doesn't take the place of classes, it supplements that. Yeah.
The destination would be Germany, Austria, Switzerland, and Hungary. We'll be gone 10 days over spring break. Cost is $41.50 for students. I just kind of quickly listed a few additional costs. In the past, I've always had students, we would leave from Franklin High School all together so that we end up at the airport all together. It's just much easier. So there would be that cost. Tips, we always have a tour director with us 24/7. I always request one specific person. So he'll meet us at the airport, and then he always spends the entire time with us, and he brings us back to the airport to come home. So he would receive tips, any of our bus drivers, and in some of the cities we have local guides, and then we give them tips as well. And if they're not good, they don't really get a good tip, but then that just goes to Tomas, our regular tour guide. So lunches and drinks like soda, if the kids want soda, they have to pay for that themselves. Breakfast and dinner are included every single night. The hotel is covered, the flight, I have built in this insurance for all families. There's an additional insurance plan that families can buy if they would like to, and they can set that up directly with EF. What's not included? So I put in here the room supplement. So for example, I have a student who's wheelchair bound, and if she were able to go on the trip, her mom, I guess, said she would come. And so in that case, there might be an additional cost. The rooming is done price-wise, 4 students in a room, and adults are 2 adults in a room. So if they take a student and an adult, that's where that supplement comes in. It does not apply to most people at all. Occasionally, there are optional excursions. I don't think I have any built into this trip. As I mentioned, beverages and lunches, snacks, souvenirs, the tips, those, and then if their bag weighs over 50 pounds, the kids will have to pay for it to come home. And then, of course, passports. So those things are not included in the 4150.
And we know that cost is large. It seems like a big number, but that once we know we're able to move forward with this, then the fundraising starts right away the next day. And of course, we're going to do everything we can to bring that cost down as much as possible. And Tricia has experience in that domain as well, and she'll do that within how we are permitted to fundraise within Franklin for our students so that we can support as many students going as possible.
How many students do you expect might go?
My goal would be 24, but for sure 20 I would travel with. I've gone with as many as 40. So it's nice if we can get, you know, the more students who are traveling, the price will drop a little bit. I'm not talking $1,000, but so the more we can get, the better it would be. But I would say a ballpark perfect number in my mind is somewhere between 24 and like 32. It's a nice group to travel with.
I look at the itinerary. Where's the language focus come in? I guess I can understand the culture of where you're going, but how's the language exposure work since there's not family stay or
only in Hungary would they not be speaking German. The rest of the trip is in German-speaking cities and towns. And all of our stops, they're responsible for finding their own lunch every day. So they're going to have to order and pay. Our tour director will be with us the whole time. He is German, so we watch and listen to him on the bus. We might watch a video or something about the place we're going so that they can learn about that. Tour director speaks also in German. Anytime that they're just out in public, when we go on tours and so on, typically they can adjust like headphones to English or German, so it kind of depends their comfort level. They're just surrounded by the language constantly, with the exception of Hungary. Yes.
I think it's definitely a great initiative, you know, of learning the cultures, you know, going out of the United States, seeing how the cultures are. My one question is the price seems to be too high, because if he, you know, even take March is not a high season, kind of, you know, but if you, 4,950, so in your experience, what is the usually cost? Because if you're having 4 students per room,
yes,
you know, with even the tour guides and all that stuff, and the air ticket being close to $1,000, you know,
yes,
like $800 to $900,000 to Europe. Are the excursions more expensive in that part, or what brings up the expense so high?
I think it's a combination of things. I think it's because everything is more expensive now. I think flights are probably a little more expensive than they used to be. I would say that the price used to be closer to maybe $3,600 per student. So when they quoted me the $4,150, because I've worked with them for many years, I said, what? That can't be right. Can you redo that? And it was the lowest price actually of the tours I had them price for me. So they have their flight, they have room and board the entire time, the 2 meals a day. We're on a coach bus the entire time. We have the 24/7 tour director. There are, I believe, 2 city tours that we have the local guides on there, so they're being paid. I know we're giving them a tip as well. And then the bus driver, and there are all these restrictions in Europe about how many hours they can drive the bus and all that, but gas is extremely expensive, so in the past, you know, we'll have to make a stop, he fills up the bus, and you just watch the numbers go up. So I just think because everything is more expensive right now, and I do understand it's a lot of money. I get it. I looked at the number too and thought, wow. And, you know, typically I like to do an 11-day tour because we're spending a whole day. Like day 1 is considered leaving O'Hare and flying to Europe. Like that's day 1. So we're already down 1 day. But yeah, I hope that answers your question.
Students who are taking Spanish or other language, for example, and they want to take this trip, for example, what is the benefit? Of course, the benefit of the culture and being exposed, you know, but the integration into the German language.
For
How do
the
you- how do you see
Spanish
that?
students?
Yeah. How do you
I
see
can
that?
kind of answer that because
Yeah.
it's kind of the last slide. So we want to have our high schoolers exposed to these opportunities as much as possible, but we also know we can't take 3 trips in 1 year, or you know everybody over spring break goes somewhere. That's not feasible. So as we've done in the past, just kind of circling up those teachers and those teams that like to do those bigger travel experiences. Our Eco Club or Environmental Science Club has gone to Costa Rica in the past. Spanish has traveled, of course, to Spanish-speaking countries. So if Spanish are interested, we try to provide that opportunity for them to go to a Spanish-speaking country before we'd offer them this opportunity. But knowing where the board is in terms of approving trips like this will be that first step. If we're able to approve this, or we're able to have some conversation around what you would support, then we can circle up our teams and decide who would be next or what would be the staff interest to lead something like this. You know, Tricia took it upon herself to do a lot of this background work, and she's put in hours and hours of work. So we need a staff member who's going to be passionate and do it as well and be as organized as Tricia's been. But if we have that, we know we'll have students that want to get these experiences because they talk about it all the time.
Would you allow a non-German student, like a student who's not in a German class, to go on the trip if they were so
I
interested?
think our initial hope is to advertise it to those that are in the German classes and then see where interest is and then consider those next steps and opportunities.
So,
Angie, please. Oh, sorry.
Go ahead, Mary.
so first of all, vielen Dank, Fraulein. I had my daughter tell me how to say that. So my thing says no fundraising is planned, but you said it sounds like there's.
No fundraising is planned yet, just because we want the trip to be like officially happening, but we have ideas and we'd
You
like
do,
to start those
okay.
things.
Because I was gonna say, I don't have a child in German, but I would absolutely love to contribute to this simply because of the exorbitant cost. I think it's an incredible opportunity, and when my daughter went to Italy with the music, you know, folks, it was, she got a job, and that's why she got the job. So, I mean, it was $3,000, and that was before all the crazy inflation. So this isn't, you know, out of whack with what she had to pay 3-4 years ago.
I just wanted to say thank you, Ms. Carson. It's your first year in the district, and to take something like this on is really admirable, so thank you for doing that.
Thank you.
I do think it would be valuable for us as a board to think about if you are going to be bringing more trips like this to us, sort of just thinking about and maybe working with you around some sort of criteria for how we decide what is a, you know, a worthwhile trip versus not. So we're not just sort of going on gut instinct. That being said, my gut instinct is to support this.
Thank you.
Yeah, I think aside from the language benefits, that's why I asked about another student going, or, you know, a non-German student, because I just think anytime you have a chance to travel is, you know, incredible, and you have plenty of real-life experiences and how to handle, you know, stressful situations even, or, you know, I mean, just some of those real, like, soft skills of being an adult, I think are, you know, really valuable for our students, so.
And my last question is that students who are underprivileged, you know, is there a program where they have the passion, they're in a class, but they don't have the resources?
Yes.
How can we give them this exposure?
I think through fundraising. So
No, I agree.
Mention
Like
the
through,
Brewers.
yeah, no, it's fine. I think like Trisha's had partners in the past, such as the Brewers, where they can raise a good amount of money in a short amount of time. And additionally, our foundation is always super supportive. Maybe not to the level of full financing, but to be able to work with them would be a next step as well.
I think it's a great opportunity, you know, from a world perspective. I have taken my kids and they have really appreciated what US stands for, but also what other perspective of the people around the world, because sometimes when people are just closed, you know, in the US, they don't have a perspective of, you know, Germany, Italy, even Africa. It's, I think, a great opportunity. I myself studied in Ukraine, the Russian language, so exactly know what's happening there and have a great perspective of, you know, people around. So yeah, thank you so much for doing that. Thank you.
All right, any further questions, clarification? I'm looking for a motion to approve the request as presented.
So moved.
Second.
Our motion is made by Ms. Sapersky, seconded by Dr. Khan. Any further discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much.
You,
Get to fundraising, right?
I'll talk to him tomorrow.
Get to the kids fundraising.
Yeah. Well, if they have skin in the game, then,
Yes.
yeah.
Thank you.
Thank you.
All right, appointment of CISA 1 Annual Convention Delegate, CISA 1 Board of Control Member. The CISA 1 Convention is the third Tuesday in May every year. Franklin has a seat on the CISA 1 Board of Control. We met yesterday. It was the first meeting under new leadership, and the meeting was virtual, which was amazing. And I think the meetings are going to be virtual going forward, which may be helpful in this discussion, or at least have a hybrid option. So what I wanted to discuss was whether we have to name a CISA 1 convention delegate, because Franklin needs to be represented at the convention. The convention is an hour meeting of CISA to really tell us what to do, what they do basically. But the next question would be whether we want to maintain a seat on the Board of Control, because we are up for election this year. So with it being virtual more frequently, I would say yes, and I would be willing to be the delegate. But maybe somebody else is interested in it as well.
Can you tell us more about when the meetings are and?
Sure. So the meetings are monthly on generally on the third Tuesday of the month. The CISA offices are in Pewaukee on Paul Road, about a half an hour drive from here.
Are they in the evening or
They're in the
daytime?
evening. They're at 6 o'clock. There are 11 members on the Board of Control. Milwaukee always has a seat, and the School District of Milwaukee. And then there are 4 or 5 at-large members and 5 or 6 that are regional. And again, they rotate so that there are either 3 or 4 elected each year. That's a 3-year term as the Board of Control.
Was anyone else interested in this position?
Does anybody else have an interest?
When is it, do they meet summer? Not summer.
I think there's 1 month in the summer where there's no meeting.
I'd be interested.
Okay.
It's When you say it's we're up for election, are you saying we don't need to be represented, or I'm
Right.
confused on how?
Correct, so there are
We're
40,
not-
there are 46 school boards that are in CISA one, or 40 school districts. And there are 11 members of the Board of Control. So Franklin has a seat that we won 3 years ago that is up for election this year.
Does that mean we could lose it?
Yeah.
Yes, we could lose it. It's unlikely that there will be competition, but it's possible.
And if we don't maintain a seat on the Board of Control, are the meetings still monthly? You're just not on the board, or?
If we're not on the Board of Control, then we
Then
don't
we're
go,
just a member
then
of
we don't go to
CISA.
the Board of Control meetings. We are still a member of CISA.
You still attend the convention?
We
the
still
one-
attend the convention, but we're not on the Board of Control.
I have to assume there's an advantage to being on the Board of Control in some form or fashion. No?
I mean, certainly there's networking, certainly you're involved in day-to-day operations of the school district. I would say no, but that doesn't, it's not invaluable, but it's, to running the school district, no, it has little value.
But somebody has to be on the
But
Board of Control for CISA to continue. So it's sort of
Yes,
like,
correct.
I sort of see it as, we've done our 3 years, and if someone's very interested in it, you said you'd be interested in it, Linda might be interested in it. Why not?
Yeah, it seems like
Good service,
good, right, good thing to continue to do, but
but I don't want to do it.
Linda, would you also like to continue as, if you took this on, would you also like to continue as the SWSA representative?
Well, I'd be willing to give that up if somebody else would take that on. And again, it's, that is also done virtually, so it's easier to attend the meetings. And I think it's very valuable in terms of our connection. Sounds like that's even more useful than this, but somebody else could certainly take that on, I would take this on.
So is it Franklin that's the position, or is it you, Mike, is
It's
the?
Franklin.
It's Franklin.
It's
So it could
Franklin that
be-
has a position.
So it could be split? Or, I mean.
No, the answer
These
is
are
no.
two different
Okay.
things.
Yes,
Okay.
so, yes, we have a delegate. We have a delegate that is named the CISA delegate,
Mhm.
and that person would be on the Board of Control for a year.
I see,
At next April's meeting, that delegate could change.
I see, okay.
And if we're on the Board of Control, that's Franklin's seat, not the delegate's seat. So I'm the delegate at this point, but that could certainly change. Does that make sense? Is that?
yeah,
is that-
thanks for clarifying that.
Pardon me? Yeah,
If
would
Linda's
you like?
interested in doing it, I think we should take her up
Okay.
on the offer. What do you think?
I think that's fabulous.
Okay, well, do we have to vote, or what do we need to do here?
It looks like it.
Says yes.
Yeah, I'm looking for a motion to approve CISA 1 Annual Convention Delegate, CISA 1 Board of Control Member appointment to be Linda Witkowski.
So moved.
Second.
Motion's been made by Mrs. Sapersky, seconded by Dr. Khan. Any further discussion? All in favor? Aye. Opposed? Motion carries. Thank you, Linda and everyone.
And you'll share
Yes,
contact information.
yes. All right, 2023-24 board retreat scheduling. So we've had, last year our retreat was in the summer, or was in the fall rather, because we wanted to give the new team a chance to get comfortable in the district. I'd like to do it, I'd like to have a retreat in the summer this year. Evaluation, as you'll see later in this meeting, will be coming up for both Mrs. Bennon and for the board in May. And I'd like to, when we do evaluations, we'd like to do them at the same time or nearly the same time, and then do future planning at a retreat in the summer to focus on our goals going forward. And so I'd like to start thinking about and talking about when we might have a retreat in the summer.
We usually do this sort of abutting a scheduled meeting, correct? That's traditionally how it's been done?
It has, Lynn, tell me if your recollection is the same as mine. I feel like we've done a sort of workshop around a meeting, but maybe the retreat is a separate night.
It's been done separately. It's certainly easier to do on a Wednesday because people tend to say Wednesdays, but it's been different ways of doing it.
I feel like it'd be better to have it maybe not on a meeting night. We could continue with Wednesday, but in order to allow enough time for a valuable retreat, I think it'd be hard, even if you want to add 2 hours for a retreat, then add on a meeting after that, like that can stretch into a long night, so.
I don't disagree. It's just summer is so busy.
When is your date of retreat? Emily? When are you?
That's
You're
the
doing a
first
retreat
week of
or some
August.
planning thing.
For my evaluation is the second meeting in May.
No, I meant with
No,
your
no,
team.
your retreat, your,
Oh, for our
Leadership
leadership
retreat.
summit is August 2nd and 3rd.
So we want to kind of do it close to, we will have done your evaluation, second meeting in May, and
We'll do the final in the June meeting.
the final in the June meeting. I don't know what to say.
well, July might be,
Is that too late?
no,
Okay, so you're looking at July.
July, or, yeah, somewhere in,
Because in July, I think in summer we have only one school board meeting per month, am I right?
Correct.
in summer, we only have one meeting,
One in June, one in July.
yeah.
One in August.
So the one in July is on the 12th.
Yeah, so
So
there's-
the 5th is the day after Independence Day, so people might, I don't know if people are going to be around.
I'm
Well-
not in town.
Well, so the 12th is a meeting, and then we don't have another, there's not another board meeting until August.
16th.
Right, so I'm
16th.
just looking at Wednesdays theoretically because,
So we could do it the week after our board meeting, like on the 19th?
Perhaps,
Of what month?
I can't do that day.
July. We'll send, I mean, but if
Okay,
we-
do a
if we-
doodle poll.
Yeah.
That's a good idea.
Yeah, so
Perfect,
maybe
yes, thank you.
we'll send out a doodle poll, but for July,
Perfect.
after the July meeting, before the August meeting, and
It's a plan.
I'll talk with Mrs. Bennon, and we'll figure out what,
Yeah, and maybe it's not on a Wednesday. I mean, if there are other,
there are other possibilities.
Or maybe August? Why is August off the table? What's our goal here? What?
It's not, it's somewhere between the July meeting and the August meeting.
And I think,
Are we trying to set ourselves up for the next school year or to look back? What are we?
Well, I mean, I suppose it could be the August 20, I suppose it could be the week after the August meeting, but somewhere after the July meeting, before September 1st.
Yes, to set goals for the upcoming year.
Yes,
after reflecting on our evaluation, which we'll do in May, June?
we'll do it in May, we'll talk about it in May or June.
So we'll have reflected on our evaluation of this year, and we'll be setting goals for next year.
Yes.
I also like to kind of propose, I think, if we can have some workshop at the same time with the retreat, I mean, retreat together because, the goals of the retreat is to educate ourselves and all that stuff. And if it can be an active retreat rather than a passive retreat, where we have someone from WSB, someone who kind of, teaches about, because I think we're talking about the self-governance, the book, but I think that is good, but I think if some kind of interaction about, we have talked about communication with the community members, our stakeholders, or even the legislators, So I think some kind of in WSB.
I think they essentially have a menu of sort of workshop type options, so we can take a look at that.
I agree, and Annalee and I have talked about that a little bit.
Good idea,
About-
Maksud.
Yeah, I think that's a good idea. All right, does anybody else have any questions, comments about a retreat? All right, so going forward, we'll put out a doodle and I'll work with Darlene and get that out and we'll go forward. Thank you. Overtime safe harbor policy and payroll deduction complaint form, policy 4030. Maybe that's,
Ms. Alancor can speak more specifically
Lancour,
about it.
please.
Yeah. So tonight we are reviewing the policy with the longest title that we could possibly have. There's the recommendation and kind of the executive summary that just talks a little bit about the explanation behind kind of sunsetting this policy as a board policy. And essentially the goal is to take very similar language to what's in this policy and ultimately transfer it to our employee handbook. The goal behind that being is that the FLSA and Department of Labor recommend that when, specifically for anything that falls under FLSA or Federal Labor Standards Act, is kind of reasonably or clearly communicated. And so by making it a board policy, while we introduce the board policies to our new employees, I have no way of knowing if they go in and read all of them. So by putting it in the employee handbook, all of our employees sign off on that in the fall after the board does those approvals of updates that occur. So they receive a notification every year these are all the updates that occurred in the handbook and please sign off on this information. And it's also just a good reference point for them to remind them that it is available as a resource for them.
And remind me, I think you said it, we do approve those changes to the handbook.
Yeah, so my intention would be if the board were to approve the sunsetting of this policy at the next meeting, my intention would be to add the language to the handbook right away, just so that it's not missing and we don't have a gap. And I would probably put something or an asterisk by it that says a pending official board approval. And then I would have that on the document in the fall when you do the formal handbook approval.
Okay.
So there's no vote tonight. This is just an information and the formal vote will be next meeting.
All right, does anybody have any questions? Thank you. Saber Center for the Performing Arts Facility Use Policy 3633. It is an action item, and we went over it last week, or 2 weeks ago, sorry. Does anybody have questions regarding that policy or comments? All right, I'm looking for a motion to approve policy 3633 as presented.
So moved.
Second.
Motion is made by Mrs. Yank, seconded by Dr. Khan. Any further discussion? All in favor? Aye. Opposed? Motion carries. Thank you. Treasurer's report is available in board docs, library. Board liaison reports. Does anybody have any board liaison reports?
I did attend and Mike was there also, the parent, the elementary parent of kids with IEPs meeting this morning.
The meeting this morning, yeah.
It was, is this the last one then? And now,
Correct.
and then what happens next? Anyway, there was some good parent discussion, and it's I've been in their shoes, and I could see it's heart-wrenching sometimes to hear the stories, but I think we did end on a very hopeful note and recognize that we are doing some positive things in that area, but I guess what's the next step? It'd be interesting to know.
Yeah, so I think I've kind of been trying to put it in the Friday updates. We have the parent advocate that's been named. That was shared at the meeting today and last week when we had one. And I actually talked to Christine briefly electronically today about finding a time that person can come to the board meeting and introduce themselves so you know who they are by face. We have that opportunity. And then as Ms. Cody has shared at the end of those meetings, I'll sit down with the two advocates that help facilitate those now that we've done 2 with secondary, 2 with elementary parents, and go through what are some other action steps. But We shared the parent letter after the secondary one, where it talked about the parent advocate and some of the steps taking place there. Now, as you said, the last meeting was this morning, so now the team will come around the learning there and come up with action steps.
I just want to say I appreciate the meetings that we've had and moving forward on this stuff. It's a lot of work getting this together and moving forward on it, and I feel like we are moving forward, and I appreciate that.
Yeah, and I attended the evening version of today's meeting last week, and I think it was, it's always good to hear from our families about what their experience is, and I think our team is doing a good job of hearing that and working to make improvements where needed, but celebrate what's going well where we can, and yeah, I just think it's good to keep that ball rolling, which you are.
Andrew, please.
So I was at that, it was a very small meeting. We had 2 parents at that meeting, so that was,
A
again.
couple online.
That's
couple
true, that's true.
virtual.
There was the whole online break, and I did have to leave a little early. And then you all saw that my school, with which I liaise, has a new baby. So Mrs. Jewell has her baby
With which I
Noah,
liaise.
with whom I liaise. And then Mr. Blessington continues to patiently meet with me. And in addition to talking about what we saw tonight, he mentioned that there's a lot of work going on in the social studies curriculum, sort of going through the standards in that area, especially K through 8, and working to prioritize and understand the standards. And so we can probably anticipate seeing something from that in the next year or two, in addition to their ongoing work in the literacy area, looking at possible new resources and some debriefing on systems to improve phonemic awareness at the elementary levels that were piloted this year. So I was pretty pumped up about that. That is all.
I met with Mary for orientation, and we had a good discussion. We also went to the WASB new member meeting. Maybe Mary wanted to report that, but
Oh,
but we were there, and I thought it was a good meeting, and nice that there was a good mix of people who were experienced and a lot of new board members as well.
it was much less intimidating and overwhelming than I had thought it would be,
Oh.
so.
That's a good way to be. Liaison-wise, I have meetings upcoming before our next meeting, so stay tuned for the next May meeting, or for my school and my committee. But my Franklin Education Foundation is just as awesome as always. We are so excited for the upcoming golf outing, so I hope you're all getting your clubs ready for June 16th for our golf outing. And it's a very exciting time because in a couple weeks we will announce our scholarship winners for our Education Foundation scholarships, which we added extra, new scholarships to this year, so even more students benefiting from those funds, which is a very exciting thing. And then my other committee assignment is the Wellness Committee, and again, you'll be getting a new wellness policy coming up in the end of May, so get ready for that one. It's very exciting stuff.
I don't know if this is what this exactly falls under, but I was the last minute speaker this morning when Mr. Decker, one of the guidance counselors, put together a little recognition event for student leaders at the high school, and it was kind of amazing. They received little recognition trophies that were made by Sabre Manufacturing, and he said something, he said a lot of what happens at this school couldn't run without you. We wouldn't have a yearbook if it weren't for students. Many of you represent new initiatives that you started up, and there was probably about 60 different kids, and it just warmed my heart. And I quoted the famous 20th century poet in my remarks to them, Vanilla Ice, if there is a problem, I'll solve it. And it was at 7:20 in the morning, and a couple people chuckled, so I felt pretty good about
You
that.
got a chuckle from my student, I'll tell you that.
Oh, very good.
You were text worthy, I got a text about it.
Excellent.
They might not know who Vanilla Ice is, so.
Well, now they do.
Now he's like
A
a
history lesson.
handyman show or
He
something.
is,
For
that's
heaven's
true.
sake.
There's no way Chris isn't Vanilla Ice all the time.
Mike? Okay, we're gonna move on now.
All right. School and community engagement reports.
Well, can I just dovetail off of Ann and say what a privilege and a pleasure it is to read all of these submissions from the students for the scholarships. And the thing that I think struck me the most is, yes, you have kids in the upper, level of their rank in class, but you've got some kids who are really just all over the map in terms of where they rank in their class, and their GPAs are not indicative at all of their commitment to, volunteering or, community service or working as an intern somewhere. I just love that it reflects a broad array of students throughout the class ranking. And then I'm now getting to read the submissions for the UMPS scholarships. And that, again, these are so poignant and reflect just how much music means to these students. It helps them with their stress levels. It helps them overcome shyness. I mean, they are brutally honest with just how much music, participation in music programming impacts their lives for the positive. So I gotta plug music any chance I get, and these essays are incredible, and it is such a privilege to be able to read them and see how much it impacts these students.
All right, anybody else?
We did, you mentioned it, Annalee, but going to the construction house, I have to tell you, it's like one of my favorite things to do every year, from the beginning with the groundbreaking, when the kids are kind of like, I don't know what I got myself into, there's a hole in the ground, and they tell me there's gonna be a house. And then to see it at the end, when they walk through and they're so proud. And what I happened to be leaving as this one kid was in the laundry room, which had double pocket doors. I've never seen that before. And I was really interested in the pocket door, to tell you the truth. And this kid was like, I did that. And then explained to me the precise measurement of making sure it's on the track. And what you might not know, if you have a pocket door in your house, there are actually like extra pieces of wood in between the sheets of drywall, so that when the door slides, it doesn't like shift and bang into it. It keeps it on a slide. Anyway, he was very excited to tell me about it. I was very excited to learn about it. And just like you said, just that pride in seeing those students, what they've accomplished. And I've been talking about it even out in the world about how proud I am with Franklin Schools of having that partnership with Tim O'Brien Homes. And I just think that's really excellent. We also had community performance at the Sabre Center, Fortes Into the Woods, which I was at 2 weeks ago, and I'm always pleased to be at an event like that when it's not, you're all there because, it's the Southwood Glen concert tonight, and it's a whole bunch of parents who have to be there. These are people who come to, choose to come to Franklin because we have this performance going on, and they walk around and they're like, wow, this is a beautiful facility, and it's just really a point of pride. That night in particular, there was a major track invite going on. And that too was like really cool to see just how many, people, buses, coach buses from out of state, all coming to support a major track invite, is that what it's called? Track meet? But that too, I didn't have time to do both events, but just to see that many students and families and buses full of people all enjoying our Franklin facilities, I just thought that was pretty neat too.
Thanks.
I think, especially what I'm hearing, and I wanted to actually go to the Tim O'Brien opening of that home. It gives such a unique, practical, hands-on experience. And these kids, because when we talk about kids, not everybody's going to go to college, and it gives them exposure, real-life exposure of building up something and giving them this confidence, and giving them a view of what are the other options. Not everybody have to go to college. There are a lot of jobs right now, in electrician, plumbing, and all that stuff, where you can go to 6 months or a 1-year course and become a certified plumber or electrician, which is good, high-paying jobs. So I think that's a very good opportunity and collaboration which we have.
There was one young man who was leaving the ribbon cutting to go to his job that he's already working as an electrician. It was up in the Fox Valley, wasn't it?
Mequon,
Yeah.
Actually, to
You're right,
pigtail
Mequon, not Fox Valley.
on that, there was last week a job fair that was coordinated. It was held at Greenfield High School, but it was coordinated through our various member districts, all of whom I'm not remembering, but Mr. Thompson was there for Franklin, where they brought together a number of employers. I want to say it was about 30 different employers for students to go and look at, not just a summer job, but also like the youth apprenticeship kind of things. And that was very well attended, and just kind of neat to see all those different community partnerships, from, healthcare jobs to electrician jobs to, come work at Summerfest for the summer, just anything to get those kids those, life experiences. It's really important to teach them how to, how to talk to a stranger and introduce yourself and talk about your resume, those things. It was just those like soft skills that aren't necessarily taught in your math class, but you need them for real life, so.
Yeah, I
Another
really
good
like this time
partnership.
of the year
Yeah.
because we get to celebrate all the success that our students have had this year. So thank you for administrators for helping in that, helping them achieve that success, because they can't do it without you. So thank you. Anybody else have community engagement? All right, school board member comments. Future agenda items are vast and many. Friends of Franklin recognition presentation, youth mental health report, 22-23 preliminary budget assumptions, AP pre-calculus course approval, health insurance update, student transportation policy 3720, and conduct on school bus policy 3720.1. CRC presentation, which used to be the HOC presentation.
Is that what it is? I have no idea.
Yes, that's what it is. So,
Integration Center.
thank you.
Change the name, not us.
Yes, yes.
Maybe we
County
can
it.
put the name. I don't know what CRC means.
Okay.
Yeah, we can spell it out in the report.
Tobacco poster winner presentation, technology update, 23-24 board meeting schedule, library plan approval, K-12 social studies update.
Can I ask what the library plan approval is? I mean,
Just coming through the library plan that we have for our libraries and our schools. I like Ms. Zielinski, she will go through that and also the technology update. I think it's an annual reoccurring report as far as I'm aware.
It's the
Pretty
contents
typical, I
of the
think,
library,
by
right?
statute, you have to approve it either annually or every 3 years. I'd have to look back. I don't remember off the top of my head.
I remember seeing it.
K-12 social studies update, district administrator evaluation will be in closed session, and school board evaluation. I am looking for a
Question
motion.
on school board
Please.
evaluation. What tool are we using, or what's that gonna look like?
Well, Angie and I are working on a tool. It won't be too dissimilar to what we've done in the past. It just may have a few ads.
Oh, are you sharing in advance before we agree on it, or are you assuming whatever you come up with will be fine?
I'd be happy to talk about it at a meeting before we send it out.
I think that'd be important,
Okay?
if we've done it in the past.
We've evaluated the tool in the past. I don't care that we do, but
We've had committees that have put that tool together
I see.
and brought it to the, for
Okay.
full board approval.
okay.
Okay. Great. All right, I'm looking for a motion to adjourn the meeting.
So moved.
Motion's made by Mrs. Sapersky, seconded by Mrs. Witkowski. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Motion carries. Thank you.